All right, so now that we've gone through the basics of a single gene trait cross, where we have one that is dominant and one is recessive, we need to look at some of the kind of weirdos that we've got. And so today we're going to look at two of them. Incomplete dominance is going to be the first one, and then the second one is going to be codominance. Now, these are kind of, like I said, variations on the principle of dominance, but they're different from each other, and it's important that you keep them straight. In incomplete dominance, both of the alleles that exist are considered dominant. So there's no wimpy or recessive allele that is present. And what happens is they both are going to contribute to the phenotype, the physical appearance, and what they're going to do is they're going to blend together. So we often talk about this in terms of colors, just because it's something that's easy for you to understand. So it's kind of like mixing paint colors. So my example here is like if I have black paint and white paint and I mix them together, I get gray. And so if I have a black incomplete dominant allele and a white incomplete dominant allele, they are going to blend and I'm going to get that gray color. So it's really important that you understand that in incomplete dominance there is a blending of the dominant traits. So what happens here is the cross between in organisms with two different phenotypes actually produces individuals with a third phenotype that is a blending of their parental traits. So again, another example would be a mixing of red paint and white paint gives us pink. All right, so here's a kind of a pictorial representation of that, where I have a dominant red flower and a dominant white flower. So they create their gametes, and each of them are going to give a red gene and a white gene, and it blends to create this third phenotype of pink that hadn't been seen in the parents. Now, if I take two pink flowers and I cross them, okay, half of them are going to get red, and half of them are going to get white from each flower. So you can see here I've got pink because I've got a white and a red, and then a pink with a white and a red, and with their offspring I'll get half pink, a quarter red, and a quarter white. Now this is different from the other type, which is called codominance. So in codominance, both alleles are considered to be dominant, and both of them show up, but in the phenotype of someone who is heterozygous. But the difference here is that there is no blending that takes place. That is super important. So when you see this, you actually see the individual phenotypes. There's no blending together for an overall difference. So for example, if I have my black and white, instead of turning gray, it's kind of like that salt and peppery type look, or even spots. No blending takes place. So if I look, for instance, at like this picture of the cow, now this isn't black and white, it's brown and white, but you can see some of the hairs in it are brown, some of it are white. We don't have a blending of colors. So just a little bit more on this. One of the other ways you can remember this is co means together. So a cross between organisms that are codominant, again, produces a third phenotype that doesn't appear in the parents. And so you can also see this here with this other example. So cattle can have red hair or white hair. In order to have red hair, they have to be homozygous. In order to have white hair, they have to be homozygous. But when they are heterozygous with both a red and a white, it turns into what we call roan, which is red and white kind of spotted. So again, let's look at oh, I thought I had a picture there. I'm sorry. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to move over to our worksheet for this, and we're actually going to do one together. So this is the worksheet on says incomplete dominance and codominance crosses. So one of the first things you're going to need to do is decide, is this incomplete dominance or is this codominance? So 4 o'clock flowers show a pattern of incomplete dominance. So right there it tells you this is incomplete dominance. So we know that we have blending here. If red 4 o'clock flowers and white 4 o'clock flowers are crossed, what color flowers would be expected in the offspring? So let's go through our 5 steps. So the first step was to identify our alleles. So we have red, which is dominant. Remember, in incomplete dominance, both of them are dominant, and so we would do that as capital letter R. White is also dominant. Now, because this isn't recessive, we don't use little r, we actually can use a different letter, in this case, W. Step 2, we need to create our combination. So I can have big R, I can have big R, W, and we usually list them in alphabetical order, so red and white. And then we can have W, W. So this is homozygous dominant, and that's red. This is heterozygous. Now, this is the step that's critical. I'm going to get blending. I have incomplete dominance. So red plus white gives me pink. And then this is homozygous dominant again. And this is going to give me white flowers. Third step, parents. I'm doing red and white. So I've got red parent and a white parent. So I have to look at these genotypes here. I have big R crossed with big W, big W. Step 4, we do the Punnett square. One parent across the top, one parent down the side. Fill in. All right, step 5 says answer the question. What color flowers would be expected in the offspring? Well, if we look here, all of these guys are the same. RW corresponds to pink, so we would expect 100% pink in the offspring. Okay, so figure out what type of dominance it is. Is it incomplete or is it codominance? That's going to tell you if it's blending or not blending. When you are done with your practice problems, please feel free to come up and check them with my answers. This is really important that you get down so that you don't make mistakes when it comes to time for your test.